stunning looks than swift.
Nice little break for the Asia Cup, but we are very much at the business end as the R. Premadasa Stadium in Colombo will host the rest of the tournament after much deliberation and after some significant views on its weather forecast page. We arrive at Sri Lanka versus Bangladesh round 2 in this year's tournament. The Nagin Derby didn't quite live up to all the hype and expectation as a contest in the group stage. We're hoping for a hot and cold Bangladesh to turn up hot against a Sri Lankan team that is just stringing wins together and is eyeing quite a significant record as far as wins in ODI cricket goes. So we build up to that one on Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Matchday, powered by JBL. It's a very good afternoon to Amol Muzumdar, who I have the pleasure of welcoming back in our English studio today. How have you enjoyed your time in a slightly different setup in the Hindi live show in the previous few days?
Oh, I have enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I've absolutely enjoyed it because it's a chat show, and it was free flowing.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the banter over there.
Unfortunately, it's just you and me now over here. So I hope you're okay.
Yeah, 110%.
Good,
Raunak.
good.
Nice to be back in this seat.
Thankfully, it's not just you and me. Actually, we do have Farveez Maharoof with us. So it's time to say hello to Farveez, who, more importantly, forget the Sri Lankan analyst and the Asian authority that he is on cricket. He's going to be a weatherman for the first comment and tell me what it looks like in Colombo, whether we'll get a nice long game of cricket or not. Farveez, what's happening? Good afternoon.
Afternoon to you, Raunak. Afternoon, Amol. Good to be back. Yeah, the weather forecasts have been really good. Today, from morning, it's been hot, it's been muggy as I speak. Sun breaks through again, and hopefully it'll stay clear. But next few days, the weather forecast doesn't look good for the moment. Yeah, Sri Lanka is doing well, and Colombo is nice and hot.
Excellent. So that's the first bit of news that we wanted, that we expect an on-time toss, an on-time start. But Farveez Maharoof has given us news that we did not want to hear, but not news that is unsurprising, given the forecast for both tomorrow, the India-Pakistan game, as well as what is now perhaps a first of its kind reserve day for just 2 teams in the tournament, is also pretty grim, the forecast for Monday. So maybe before I go to Sri Lanka v Bangladesh, let me ask these 2 gentlemen who've played so much cricket in different parts of the world, whether they've ever been privy to something like this in a tournament where 2 teams in particular enjoy a reserve day. We understand the reasons, we may not agree with it, but as a player, can't possibly be feeling right.
I was pretty much shocked when I heard the news. I mean, it came late in the tournament. Probably in the business end of the tournament, and it has there has been a rule change. But obviously, there must have been some deliberations from all the countries involved, and the stakeholders have obviously decided that there needs to be a rule change. So we just have to live with it.
I mean, let me see how Farveez Maharoof would feel if he was in the Sri Lankan camp now, who have serious chances of making the Asia Cup final, and then you hear this kind of thing. Does it bother the modern day player as much, Farveez?
I mean, I'll be lying if I say the Sri Lankan team will not be happy about it. I think they have no choice, as Amol said. I mean, this is something that the authorities have taken, considering major things going on about the broadcasting things. But as far as Sri Lanka is concerned, yes, it's a concern. But you can't control the uncontrollable. So just stick to the job. What you can do, just go out there. Sri Lanka is in a momentum, going well. The 12th man will be back at the R. Premadasa Stadium. So enjoy the occasion and let the rest in the weather god's hand rather than worrying too much about it.
Yeah, I know you can't do much, and if you follow the landscape of cricket, you know what's going on. But tell me, Farveez, do you aspire for a job in administration? God knows Asian cricket needs some sane, sensible voices, or are you happy with just broadcast for now?
I am very happy turning up for ESPN for you.
All right, then we are very happy to have both Farveez Maharoof and Amol Muzumdar as we just move our attention back to the contest at hand. Bangladesh Sri Lanka toss has taken place at the Premadasa. It's been won by Shakib Al Hasan. He's going to have a bowl first. Now this is a Shakib who has chosen to bat first in all the previous games that he's won the toss, including in Sri Lanka. Now is that just a reflection of weather and what we expect from this part of the tournament in Colombo now, Amol?
That must be playing on the minds of the captain and the coaching staff as well, without a doubt. Because we've had so many interruptions, especially in Sri Lanka, that must have played a part in the decision. But having said that, Shakib Al Hasan has obviously read the conditions well over there, and he's chosen to field first.
Will tosses have perhaps more of a significance or an advantage for Farveez given the weather around, and perhaps that is the reason that Shakib is doing what he's doing?
Slightly surprised, to be honest, Raunak.
Okay.
Similar conditions up in Pallekele. He opted to bat. He said that he can't control the weather and he like to bat first and put runs on the board. And all of a sudden, you come to Colombo. I mean, weather is almost the same, if not the same. And he chose the other way around. So I think that's a bit of a negative start, if I may say it, because R. Premdasa Stadium lately, with the pitches being relayed, it's best to bat on first and put the runs on the board. Historically speaks that you have to put the runs on the board. It's never easy chasing down a score. So I reckon it's slightly negative option taken by Bangladesh. But I'm not sure what Dasun Chanak was thinking. But I'm pretty sure if I'm the captain, I would have liked to bat because you cannot control the weather, as I said.
Yeah, I mean, it's been strange in Sri Lanka, isn't it? I mean, the first game, India-Pakistan, Rohit won the toss. He elected to bat first where it was overcast conditions. It's been really strange. Decision-making from the captains. I mean, I agree with Farveez a little bit that, at Premadasa, obviously, as I said, overhead conditions have taken a lot of, it has made a little bit impact on the decision-making. But having said that, ground conditions, you need to take more attention to.
Yeah, it's a team that, as a batting unit, has blown hot and cold. We've seen the best of them against Afghanistan, and we've seen them almost not show up against Sri Lanka and Pakistan. You've been part of a batting setup multiple times. If your batting is slightly hit and miss, underconfident, is it better to not bat first, especially with weather around and whatnot? You might have interruptions, etc.
Yeah, it depends on the mentality of the team. Also the batting unit, how confident you are of chasing the score down. It's an important game. It's a very eye-catching game. I personally feel. Of course, India-Pakistan is probably a superb rivalry that we have seen over the years. But Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, it's an evenly match contest. I think edge on this contest, I feel.
All right. Now Sri Lanka are unchanged. So let's confirm that. First up, in what was a much talked about scene of events against Afghanistan and their last encounter, but that's all done and dusted now. Super 4 action ahead of them, and they'd be hoping to not leave their chances to the fate and the sensibilities of the opposition, because otherwise Afghanistan were all set to hammer down that score. As it turns out, they have Dhananjay De Silva to thank for ensuring that they end up going unbeaten through. So it's the same team, no changes whatsoever. And yet again, they'll be batting first, Farveez. I wonder if Bangladesh could also be inspired by what happened in that Sri Lanka-Afghanistan game, where they felt like, oh, you could put the Sri Lankan bowling attack under pressure if you take them on chasing.
I mean, how many times we have seen when there's no pressure, you just have to go after every ball. The batting team comes up triumphs. That's exactly what happened to Afghanistan. I don't think for Bangladesh it's a matter. I mean, if Sri Lanka scores 250, Bangladesh have 50 overs to get it done, and that's where most of the time when your game gets dragged, the chasing side feels the pressure unless you have a chasing master like a Virat Kohli in your team. This is what Bangladesh has been missing. Najmul Hassan Shanto is going to be a massive miss. I reckon he's the one who was keeping the middle order together. So I reckon for Sri Lanka to win this, score the 250 and make sure that with the new ball, take a couple of wickets, because Bangladesh batting up to probably number 7 and 8. So that's where I think it's very important Sri Lanka strikes with the new ball and try and get 250. Don't try to plan the 330s, the 300s, which Gaddafi Stadium offered, because this pitch in RPM Stadium is far different than the Lahore pitch.
All right. Now, Bangladesh, interestingly, have made a change. So let's just have a look at that. It is a team that needs to try and find their best 11 going into what is a must-win game for them. And as I look at that team, it's Nasum Ahmed. So there's a left-arm spin option that they've got, no Afif Hussain. So they've gone with the extra left-arm orthodox spinner in this particular game. Amol, just quick reaction on that?
Yeah, I think it's a fair replacement. Naseem Ahmed, they've obviously bolstered their spin department, but I'm top of the order, I'm a little concerned about that. Mohammad Naeem needs to get a little bit of runs. Mehdi Hassan Miraz, of course, obviously got 100. Liton Das coming back. So in the top 3, they do have a couple of guys who one hasn't played much of cricket and another one needs a lot of runs.
Farveez, as we look at Naseem Ahmed's inclusion, 5 right-handers in the top 7, is that in the Sri Lankan lineup? Is that possibly what's tempted Bangladesh to go this way? Do you agree with it?
Completely agree with both of you. I think that's the only thing I can think of. Afif Hussain is a batting all-rounder who brings the depth to the batting. So he's a player who he can play the game according to the situation. He's a batter who could bowl, but Naseem Ahmed is out and out left-arm spinner. So only reason I could think of the top 5. And when it comes to left-arm spin, players like Dasun Shanak, who has been struggling for runs at number 7, is not the easy starter when it comes to left-arm spin and wrist spin. So that's maybe option that Bangladesh have taken. Mind you, they got Rangana Herat, Chandik Hatru Singh, and all these support staff behind. They know each and everything about the Sri Lankan players. So I'm pretty sure those inputs would have worked here as well.
Tell me a bit, Farveez, about this winning streak, which now we must say is reaching extraordinary sort of scales. 12 wins on the trot for Sri Lanka. They win today and they go second only to the great Australian team of the early 2000s. Is that the kind of thing that the players or the support staff would have in mind? Would this work towards their confidence, or is this slightly perhaps over padding their achievements as far as how they've actually played in the last 12 games? What do you make of this streak?
I mean, numbers are numbers. That's how I look at it. Yes, it's going to be a record. It will be associate countries or the test playing countries. Doesn't matter. It goes to the history books as records. So that's how I look at it. And talking about the last 12 games, I don't think Sri Lanka has played their best games yet, but still ended up winning all the games in the qualifiers in Zimbabwe. Played really well against Bangladesh in the first game. Afghanistan was lucky to scrape through. I think there's a lot of room for improvement, and also many of the star players, the first choice players, aren't available as well. So I reckon this is a positive news to go into. I mean, especially I'm pretty sure that Chris Silverwood and the coaching staff will be, reminding them in every team meetings that how good this team is, and that's why even Dasun Shanaka, the form he's been in, is still holding on to that captaincy and the team place in the team as well, because simply the team is winning and selectors keeping trust on them.
I personally feel Sri Lanka could be a serious threat in the World Cup if they address 2 things. One is, that's not in anyone's control. That is a form of Dhananjaya De Silva and Darshan Shanaka. Yeah. If they can have those finishers at number 6 and 7, that's one. And the second part is the injury list, what they have about the bowlers. If they have Hasaranga, Chamira, Madhushanka and Lahiru Kumara, if they come back along with Tikshana and Pathirana, it becomes a very potent bowling attack. So these 2 things, if they can take care of, then I think they become a serious threat going into the World Cup.
And it is conditions in our part of the world. Sri Lanka going to be a threat, and don't worry about the qualifiers or the opposition. Ask the West Indies how hard it is to beat some of these associate nations. It's not easy anymore. So well done to Sri Lanka. And if they win today, they extend that run to 13. It puts them in a clear second position. At the moment, they're tied with Pakistan and South Africa in 2005 and then 2016-17. So we keep an eye out for these statistical things in case you're a fan of it. As you talk about streaks and records, they also have a great chance playing at home against a Bangladesh team that at the Premadasa Stadium are yet to win in ODI cricket. So that's something that doesn't work. If you look at Bangladesh's record at this venue in Colombo, 11 losses, 11 matches, so they still wait for their first win. We're also going to try and get a little more perspective of what kind of cricket we expect, weather notwithstanding, from the RPS in Colombo this time of year. But that's Bangladesh's record. They're yet to win still. Sri Lanka, on the other hand, and this is Bangladesh's overall record in Sri Lanka, which is pretty poor. But let's put that into perspective. Bangladesh and Sri Lanka have this spicy rivalry that's brewing. It doesn't seem like that rivalry is going anywhere near Bangladesh's favour when they come to Sri Lanka. Why is that, and what sort of game are we expecting today at Sri Lanka as far as conditions goes at Colombo?
I'd like to remind you, Raunak, what I said the last time. Since 2015, I think that's where the rivalry has started, because so many of the big players of Sri Lanka have retired. I mean, to be honest, our Premdas Stadium for Sri Lanka in white ball is a fortress. And I'm not surprised that Bangladesh have not beaten Sri Lanka. If my memory serves right, I read somewhere it's 9 out of 9 which Bangladesh have lost against Sri Lanka at the Arpanda Stadium, 11 out of 11 overall. That goes to show how well the Sri Lankan team have played. So Arakan is, the spiciness, as I said before, it started in the 2018 Nidas Trophy. Ever since then, it's a media hype that, picked it up. But for me, players are in good spirits. Yeah, they play their heart out in the middle, but off the field, they're very good friends. And it's something building up. I mean, that's a long way to go for me because you take the numbers at the moment, Sri Lanka is far ahead. Yes, last few, when I say few, probably last 2.5 years, Bangladesh ODI record is good, especially in their home country. But whenever they go out, the record isn't that great. So I reckon overall, Sri Lanka brings their A game. Though 4 of the senior players aren't there, I reckon Sri Lanka got the firepower to come through as well.
Okay, now since he's brought up media hype, let me do justice to that and actually go down. We've made a nice little package of the Sri Lanka-Bangladesh rivalry. Farveez makes good points there though. It's recent years, it's perhaps even more T20 cricket than it is ODI cricket. But why has this been christened as, I'm not a fan of it, but it is what it is, the Nagin rivalry? Let's just dig up a little more and see what Sri Lanka and Bangladesh have been up to last few years.
The Nagin celebration apparently started in one BPL season when Darren Sammy told left-arm spinner Nazmul Islam that he was kind of like a snake, probably as a compliment. And Nazmul started doing the Nagin celebration every time he took a wicket. Nothing unusual about that. Plenty of bowlers do wicket celebrations. But when Sri Lanka toured Bangladesh in 2018 and Nazmul celebrated in his new trademark style, one Sri Lanka player started mimicking Nazmul Islam's celebration after he himself took a wicket. That player is Danush Gunathilaka, whose actions, I think it's fair to say, tend to cause more strife than they're worth. And in any case, Mushfiqur Rahim didn't like that a teammate's celebration was being mocked in this way, and his way of retaliating was to do a mock Nagin celebration at Gunathilaka after he played a match-winning innings in the Hus Trophy later that year. This was the moment at which Nazmul Islam's innocent celebration became an artifact of battle between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. The Sri Lanka team started doing it when they won, the Bangladesh team started doing it when they won, the fans from either side started doing it whenever their team was doing well. None of this was helped, by the way, by the fact that one of the Bangladesh team members shattered this glass door in a Colombo stadium after a hugely controversial match that featured a lot of gesticulating outside the boundary by Shakib Al Hassan. And while the mocking Nagin celebrations have been a feature of Sri Lanka-Bangladesh matches since, it's important to point out that there is no geopolitical angst underpinning this. Sri Lanka and Bangladesh do not have beef on a national level. Now I know what you're thinking. It can't be that superficial, right? It can't quite be that stupid. But it is that stupid. And if you think it sucks for you to have had to listen to that over the last few minutes, think about me, who has had to watch these Nagin exchanges between these two teams for work and report on them. Then I've had to research it and write a script for this video. And I've had to come to this stadium, which is quite far from my house, to present it. And it's taken me like several takes to get it right. But I guess this is my life.
Andrew Fidel Fernando is a man of many talents, and you have seen that even in spite of his multiple retakes by his own admission of that video. That was brilliant in a way that only Fidel can put forward. Shall we get a verdict in support of it? Farveez, you enjoyed it. I'm sure you've had your exchanges with Fidel over the years, and he calls the Nagin rivalry a bit stupid. I'm inclined to agree with him.
Same here. I think it's just stupid and it's just waste of time. But let me tell you, who benefited out of this Nagin was India. Because I remember when Bangladesh and India played that final in the Nidas Trophy, the entire crowd supported India. No one supported Bangladesh because of all the actions what Shakib and the team did in the middle. And there was a huge social media, uproar about it. And everyone started supporting India. And India actually won it in the finals where Dinesh Karthik, I think, smashed 20 odd in the last over. So, India definitely benefited, and it's just for me just waste of time, Raunak, as I said. In the end, you play the game. I'm a believer. I go into more traditional stuff. You play the game, you celebrate hard. All these off-field stuff, and in the field they do it. It's just a distraction for me. I don't like it.
Have you seen coaches do it too? Khalid Mahmood
it's unbelievable.
There at that point.
It's unbelievable. I mean, but probably that's the first time I've seen the video, and I thoroughly enjoyed that 2-minute clip. I fully agree with Farveez that it's a waste of time. Get on with it. there's no room for such things in cricket. I can understand a little bit of banter here and there. That's fine. That's fair enough. You do certain things on the field, and it's been done off the field also for a little while. That's fine. But if it's carried on for a longer time, then it becomes a little bit of a hindrance. So I would stick to the traditional stuff. Just shake your hands and move on.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand players these days get carried away with the emotion. You're expecting your support staff to calm tempers.
Yeah.
These days that doesn't happen though, does it? In international cricket or IPL, you have to keep an eye on the support staff to rein them in. So you saw images of Khalid Mahmood. There was actually one of the key instigators back then, and of course we have examples closer to home too. But let's move back to the game at hand. First game at the Premadasa Stadium, which will host every game now as we build up to the final on the 17th of September. Let's just break down pace versus spin and get an idea of what kind of cricket we expect. We've seen a lot of pace essentially play the cards so far. Pakistan have been largely responsible for it. You had the likes of Kasran Rajita in good wicket-taking form at least. 38.7% of the overs have been bowled by pace and 60 plus by spin. As far as economy goes, spinners have it better, average spinners have it better, wickets per innings too as well. So Farveez, if you can put that in context, are we expecting spin to now play an even more significant role in the Asia Cup with all the games here?
I reckon the team who's batting in the afternoons will experience a lot of spin. Come 7 o'clock under lights, the ball might deviate a little bit. That's what I experienced during the LPL when I covered the Pakistan-Afghanistan one day, because the pitch looked fantastic. It looked fat, and I remember rest of the commentators were talking about how good pitch it was. And all of a sudden in the evening, when Nasim Shah and all these fast bowlers are running in, it was just flying through. So that's why I said, Yorgos is as good as mine when it comes to the pitch, how he's going to play. So I reckon, the batters who are going to, bat the first 10 overs got to be a little bit mindful, get used to the conditions. Yes, Sri Lanka has played a lot of games at the Arpindas Stadium, especially the top order. But since late, once they relayed the pitch, I think 4 months ago, it looks a bit different. So I reckon it's best to give it a little time, settle down. And as I said, don't think of 300, 325. 250, 275, in my opinion, will do the job for you.
That's probably one of the reasons why, Raunak, they've had one more spinner added to their list. 2 left-arm spinners, 1 proper off spinner, and they do have the fast bowling, all bases covered over there. So 3 fast bowlers and 3 spinners, they've gone in Bangladesh. So as Farveez is saying, at Premadasa, it might take a little bit of turn. We will see some turn on offer probably in the afternoon. That's the reason I think they've added 1 more spinner. So they've basically covered all the things as far as bowling is concerned. Yeah,
as you look at these 2 teams, they actually rely a lot on spin, and you can understand that. We look at averages for spinners or teams with spin in ODI cricket last year or so, and you'll find Sri Lanka and Bangladesh at the very top. Numbers that likes of Tikshana and Hasaranga largely responsible for an average of 25, strike rate of 31. Bangladesh too, especially at home, they rely heavily on spin. At times they can go all out spin. They always have the luxury of Mehdi and Shakib to add balance as well, so they'll always have spin options, and that's better than India or Afghanistan. Australia are in that list too. That being said though, some more numbers more recently for context. Bangladesh's spinners haven't quite been in the wicket taking form that those numbers suggest they should be in this Asia Cup. So as we just break down those numbers for you, there's a new addition today in the form of Naseem Ahmed. But as we look at Shakib, Mehdi Hasan Miraz, and in the last game against Sri Lanka, they even played Mahedi Hassan, the other off spinner who was dropped after 1 game. Not necessarily back full of wickets or the strike rates that you'd like, but I guess they've also bowled in Pakistan where you can sympathize to a degree, or do you still expect their spinners to a sense they've underperformed so far in the tournament?
No, the conditions do play a part. The ground conditions, I mean. Shakib Al Hasan, obviously they've played in Lahore, so obviously Lahore Gaddafi Stadium, almost 300 is a pass score over there. So I guess the spinners took the beating, but Shakib Al Hasan and Mehdi Hasan would provide. They'll get some purchase out of the surface in Sri Lanka. There'll be different bowlers in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say 2 of those games, spinners didn't have enough runs to play with. Bangladesh batted first and batted poorly, against both Sri Lanka and Pakistan. But they have the chance to bowl first here. And as we speak of Sri Lanka's batting, on the other hand, Pathum Nissanka as well as Dimuth Karunaratne. Now, if you've not been following as much of this 12-match winning streak for Sri Lanka, how these two have been going, this is a partnership at the top that is as good as any in the world. Certainly the numbers would suggest it as we have a look at Nissanka and Karunaratne in recent times. The opening combination for Sri Lanka, an average of 74.4 with 450 partnerships and 3 century partnerships in 12 innings. And Pathum Nissanka in particular has been enjoying a terrific run of it since 2022. I wonder if you just throw the question out, Farveez, and say what's the best or most the hottest opening combination in ODI cricket. I don't know if you'll get an instant reaction like Nissanka and Karunaratne, but let me ask you, are they the best in ODI cricket going around?
I mean, I would like to say in Asia they are up on the top list. But when it comes to overall, I would like to play it down a little bit because both the players for me are in the same dimension. ODI cricket demands a player who's going to be aggressive up top. So I reckon that's where Sri Lanka is lacking. But Dimuth Karunaratne, ever since his arrival to the ODI side just before the qualifiers against Afghanistan, he's been a revelation. That's one reason why Sri Lanka is enjoying this out of run where, the middle order also scoring runs, especially when you have your openers setting up the tone for you. And Pathum Nissanka, we all know what a good young player he is. If he gets going, he's one of the most eye-catching players in the world. So I reckon these two players are contemplating each other very well. But ideally for a World Cup, I would like to see someone aggressive. But unfortunately, Sri Lanka can't afford to have it because these two players are performing so well. You just got to stick with what you have, I guess.
Yeah, I guess the bigger test will come when they play both India and Pakistan, who they are yet to play. But is it such a disadvantage these days of not having that player that goes hard that Farveez talks about? These are very sort of retro opening batters, you'd think, but their numbers are terrific.
The numbers are fantastic, I feel. And a batter is always judged with the number of runs that he's been scoring. And if you see the numbers, it's fantastic between them. And that's the reason why, one of the reason for Sri Lanka doing so well in the last 12 ODIs is this pair, Karunaratne and Nissanka. I mean, they've been solid up the order, and that's, they set the tone, they lay the foundation, and then somebody like Asalanka or Kushal Mendes can come and play their role in the middle order. As I said earlier, the late middle order is a little bit of a problem for Sri Lanka.
Yeah, but the two names that Amol Muzumdar just mentions, they're expected to do well here today too, because Kushal Mendes and Charit Asalanka at the Premadasa in Colombo enjoy themselves. Farveez Maharoof has already pointed out this is like a fortress for Sri Lanka. Their home record is very proud over here, and as the action is moving here, as we just have a look at Kushal Mendes firstly at the Premadasa, average of over 55, nearly 500 runs including 550s. Charit Asalanka on the other hand too, also averaging in excess of 55. So you'll have a look at Charit Asalanka too at 57.5. Those are some serious numbers. So that augurs well, Farveez. But I guess the question that Sri Lankan fans are having, and Amol mentioned those two names at the top of the show when he was looking at Sri Lanka's World Cup prospects and candidates. What after? Dhananjay De Silva, Sadira Samaravikrama, who's had some runs at the start of this tournament, and more importantly the captain, Dasun Shanaka, who's perhaps witnessing his most ordinary year as a batter. Now, at what point does that start costing Sri Lanka? Is this the kind of game you expect them to come good, and what's missing from that lower middle order?
I reckon Dhananjay De Silva's format number 6 does not bother me much. Why I say that, during qualifiers, a couple of innings when the chips were down, when the top order failed, he made sure he got the runs and won the match. And again a one day against Afghanistan, just before the qualifier, he scored runs. So, he's a player, when he gets a start, he'll make sure he go big. Yes, he hasn't gone and made runs in the last 2 games, but he has the class to come over it. What bothers me a lot is Dasun Shanaka, as we spoke about before. I mean, numbers doesn't look that good, but fortunately for him, the team is winning and the combination does not change. So I reckon going into the World Cup, is it concerning? Definitely it's concerning, because Vanidhu Hasaran is going to be fit, and once he gets fit, he's going to walk into the team. And when Vanidhu Hasaran walks into the team, who's going to make a way from him? It can be Dunit Wellalage because even Dunit Wellalage, you can't drop him straight away because that young boy has performed well every time he's been given opportunity. So these are the headaches Sri Lanka has at the moment behind the doors. In front of the door, you just think about two fast bowlers, a fast bowling all rounder, a spinning all rounder, and two spinners plays it. But what if Vanith Vasan comes in and you need to play Dunit Wellalage as well? Who's going to step out? So this is the concern that I have, and I hope that to put into all the critics to bed, if Dasun Shanaka can come to the party in this Asia Cup, that will make Sri Lanka team's combination a lot easier because I like the way the combination is set now: six batters, two all rounders, and three spinners. Beg your pardon, three bowlers. That's a fantastic team because you have that six bowling option in the top six. So that is very, very crucial in case one of the bowlers breaks down or have an off day in the bowling lineup.
Most of the times when you see a captain underperforming, it reflects on the team's performance. But here is completely opposite. The team is doing absolutely fine, but Dasun Shanaka, he needs some runs under his belt. And I personally feel it's too late for Sri Lanka to change the captain. Obviously, it can happen. It can happen, but they're very close to the
highly
World
unlikely.
Cup. Very highly unlikely that, and they're hoping that he comes into form in the next 15-20 days or so.
No better occasion than today. So Sri Lanka can manage to get the runs and the record that Bangladesh have at the Premadasa, that their own batters have at this ground. So we should expect Sri Lanka to cash in on what seems like a good toss to lose as far as Farveez goes, where he was saying he was pretty happy if you were put into bat, and that's exactly what Sri Lanka have done. So let's get a quick prediction from both Farveez and Amol as the first ball comes our way very quickly. Farveez, let me get your thoughts first. You know this ground better than most people. First innings prediction.
274.
274. And you think that's a good score, above par score? You'd be happy with that?
Definitely above par score. And I think under the conditions and the history last 3 months, I think that will be good enough.
All right. Amol Muzumdar?
There's no guide for prediction, isn't it?
No. Try and go as far away from him.
But whatever numbers we've thrown in this show, I reckon Sri Lanka would be ending up getting 282.
Oh, I like it. A little more than that. All right. I love going 300 plus. So I just going to keep saying 300 plus. 300 plus. All right. We leave it there and we see where we stand at half time with Farveez Maharoof and Amol Muzumdar. It's a big Super 4 game, especially for Bangladesh, who've already lost to Pakistan in this stage. So we will see how they respond. Join us for mid-innings analysis on Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket Info Matchday, powered by JBL. And do download the mobile app if you haven't already. We'll see you at the end of the Sri Lankan innings.
Stunning looks, then swift.
Make sure you download the ESPN Cricket Info app to stay updated with the very latest from the world of cricket.